So Yolanda, would you like to get started? I think we may just not want to wait too much longer. Do the quick
Yes, I
overview.
think we should. Thank you. So I have asked either Reese or Michelle to share the agenda. Um, I am unable to, not sure why, but they have the agenda, but all of you should have gotten the agenda in email information that was sent. And first, I want to apologize because I know we got way too many emails about this up front, but we're all in a learning situation here. And so just like the climate action plan, there's going to be some times when we're going to have some near misses. So I apologize for those emails. Hopefully you were able to get the agenda. If not, feel free to send me an email and I will send that to you. I'm going to leave my email address as well as Reese's email address in the chat so that everyone has it. And as soon as we get that agenda up, we'll post it on the screen. I'm Yolanda Slade. I'm with Centerpoint Energy. My role at Centerpoint is energy efficiency. I have a program for commercial buildings where we offer incentives for commercial improvements and new construction. And so I've been asked to co-lead this team on building optimization with Reeves Taylor. And so I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm looking forward with all of you. Thank you.
And we are working through a little bit of technical stuff because I'm not a presenter either. So we will, hopefully you'll take a look at the agenda that we sent out. But basically our goal is to give you an introduction for those who may be new to the building optimization working group, what this is about as part two. And this is really, as we've said, going into what we hope is going to be a realization of some of the recommendations that the working group that I, with a number of folks on this call, were part of and led. And the idea being, after a bit of a hiatus and some introduction of some new approaches through the mayor's office, including an equity focus that we have Marshall on the phone. We'll have her talk a little bit about that in a moment. It's now time to see how we can realize both a commercial and a residential focus. Tomas continues to be our representative from the Sustainability Office. Our goal in having Tomas come on is not only to talk a little bit about where the larger effort, there's multiple venues from transportation, infrastructure, materiality, et cetera, that we're just part of, but the building optimization group does focus on both the private and the commercial real estate realm. Tomas, have you joined us yet? Or is he having some technology issues too? Well, why don't we, in the meantime, have the attendees, Yolanda and I talked about, just do a quick round robin, introduce by name, perhaps your organization, and, in 5 seconds or less, the connection to this group, whether you're a developer, obviously a name of a developer might let us know, or you're in the building business, you're in the design business. If we could just do a quick round robin. I've started to take down some names as you came on, so I'll ask each person to come on, and I don't have everybody, so after we get to about the first 18 or so, we've got a total of plus or minus 25 people on the call today. And then with that, we hope Tomas, who looks to be now joining us, can start the process. Tomas, you have your hand up. Anything in particular you'd like to share before we get into things?
I just wanted to signal that I was here.
Great.
Apologize. I had a rather untimely computer issue.
That sounds very familiar. We may have to have you share the screen because neither Yolanda nor I are quote unquote presenters, so we can't share things. She has shared with you, so we'll get that up. But in the meantime, let's introduce folks. One of the first on the call was Brian Long. Brian, you want to introduce yourself? I see you at the top of the screen. Brian, are you on?
I was trying to hit the on button. Yeah, Brian Long with Melton Electric, contractor in Houston.
Great. Thank you, sir. That's what we need, obviously, in the business of building our buildings. Sophia Lee.
Hi, my name is Sophia Lee. I'm actually a pharmacist, but I'm also a real estate investor. And I feel very strongly about this. Currently, I'm taking a certificate with Harvard Extension on sustainable cities and communities.
Wonderful. Thank you. We like the interested diversity that this group could bring. How about Marty Becker?
Hold on.
We're ready. And there, by the way, some phone numbers coming up that I don't know names, so we'll get to the
Let's do
folks that
this.
have jumped on later. Go ahead, Marty.
It's all good. It's Marty Becker. I'm actually with Capgemini. We are a global application consulting firm and built a digital twin specifically for sustainable cities. So it's very interesting because my primary accounts are oil and gas. Obviously, we're transitioning into a whole new world. So this is very interesting to me.
Welcome, Marty. And then Louis Labourgeois, or Louis, sorry.
Yeah, that's great. That's how my family calls me in Louisiana. So, hello everybody. Glad to be on the call. Louis LaBourgeois with NOV here in Houston. We're oil and gas technology manufacturer. Very excited about smart city initiatives and technology. What we can do to make this make a greener Earth for us all, and to use renewables to that end. So glad to be on the call.
Kelly Waters.
Yes, hi everybody. I am with Powering Coastal Texas, which is a consortium of the electrical contracting industry, of which Melton Electric is one of our members. And our focus is really to partner with economic development groups, the city, anybody else who's interested in building out the electrical aspect of the energy transition in Texas.
Thank you. A lot of topics on both sides of our commercial and residential there. So Anna Monsalva.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm actually between roles right now in transition, but I have a extensive background in human resources. And I first came up to this group, wanting to be a volunteer and helping in any way I can.
Terrific. Again, I'm just going by when people came on board rather than alphabetically. So the next one is Tammy Betancourt.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tammy Betancourt, the Houston Building Owners and Managers Association. We represent commercial real estate in the greater Houston area, and we were involved in the actual writing of the Climate Action Plan the first time around in the building optimization section. Glad to be a part.
Thank you for being back, Tammy. Thank you. Lee Wong.
I'm Lee Wong. I'm a developer and actively trying to implement some of the climate action plan goals in our developments.
Thank you, Lee. Glad you're here. Good insights you can bring. How about Jorge Cantu?
Hey, hi. I'm sorry, I was finding the unmute button. I'm a graphic designer. Actually, I have a project for City Garden. I've been developing projects, studying, and anything I can help, I will be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Philo Castore.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Reeves. Philo Castore with Jacobs. I'm an architect. I've been involved in these topics for quite a bit. Recently, the Greater Houston Partnership Sustainability Committee, and glad to be here. I'm new to this group, so happy to help as much as I can.
Thank you, Philo. How about Caitlin Murphy?
Hi, Caitlin Murphy, Houston Partner. I managed our sustainability.
Wonderful. After that, how about David McLean?
Hi, David McLean, founder and president of Micmac CX. We're a built environment best practices facilitation firm. I'm also wearing a hat as the chair of the USGBC Texas Best Practices Committee, ASHRAE Houston chair of the commissioning committee, and that's enough.
Thank you, David. How about Seth Islami?
Hello, everyone. I'm Seth Islami with Stellar International Commercial Real Estate. We're a property management company. And my project, 1225 Northwood West, was the first PACE project in Texas.
Excellent. Thank you, Seth. How about, is it Kadar or Kadar Deco? And I'm just looking at what's on the screen, so I may have mispronounced things. Go ahead.
Almost there. Hello, everyone. I'm Kader Diko. I have to admit, I didn't know what this meeting was about, and I almost deleted it off my calendar. But I'm a VP of strategy for Wood PLC, who's a consulting, engineering, and construction solutions provider. We are heavily invested in the energy transition and sustainability. And my role, I've been involved with the city of Houston, writing part of the resilience strategy for Houston, also supporting the chair's agenda with Lawrence Serkin and the extended team. So I'm glad to be on the call and happy to meet everyone.
Thank you, sir. How about Gabe? Is it Suedra? Sorry.
No, Quadra.
Quadra.
I typo there. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabe Quadra. I work at a company called eSource, which, among other things, does research and consulting and advisory on utility demand-side management and energy efficiency programs. Really excited to get to apply someone to work with in this field.
Great. After that, I have Lauren Brooks.
Hi, yes, I'm Lauren Brooks. I'm with NOV, which is primarily an oil field manufacturing company, but I'm actually with our division that manufactures poles. So we're really interested in the smart city, sustainable city space, and I'm looking to learn some things here.
Excellent. I have then Bryant Price.
Yes, good evening. Bryant Price with Key HTX, and we're an energy efficiency and general contracting firm. Happy to look for sustainable solutions with the team.
Excellent. John Rentz.
Hey, good evening. John Rentz with Boxer Property. We are an owner and operator of commercial office buildings and retail in Houston, and we participated in the benchmarking and audit portion of the CAP plan last time. So look forward to seeing what this committee does. Thanks.
Excellent. Is it Lashon Johnson?
Hi, everybody. Yes, this is LaShawn Johnson. I am with CenterPoint Energy, the local transmission and delivery utility for Houston. I'm a part of our energy efficiency team. New to the group, but very happy to be involved and support this effort.
Terrific. And then Don Rabel.
Yeah, hello. My name is Don Rabel. I'm with Midwest Electric Company in the Houston, Texas area, representing the National Electrical Contractors Association, including the Southeast Texas National Electrical Contractors Association, and heavily involved with new energy.
Excellent. James Cargus. Okay, we can come back to James. And we also have several other colleagues that are just signed on by their phone number. If you'll introduce yourselves.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I found the mute button.
That's good. Thank you.
James Cargus. I've been doing sustainability for a few decades. But right now, I am working with the Texas Pace Authority to help bring financing to all these great ideas and projects.
Terrific. That's going to be a very important conversation on primarily the residential and or the commercial front. Thank you. So there's a couple of folks just real quickly that have their phone numbers, but not their names. If you'll introduce yourself real quick. First come, first serve.
My name's Bill Carey. I'm with Centura Real Estate Group.
Bill Carey, okay.
I participated on the climate action plan with the building optimization group. Centura Real Estate manages commercial and retail property in Houston.
Excellent, Bill. Thank you. Next person jumped in.
This is Kareem Dale. I'm also with Key HTX. We are an energy efficiency focused general services company, as Bryant previously mentioned. We also have participated in the PACE program, providing the first PACE nonprofit project in the city of Houston. And we've worked closely with CenterPoint on their commercial standard offer program as well.
Thank you, Kareem. Couple more, one more it looks like. Go ahead.
This is Shannon Ladd, and
I have recently moved to Houston from Boston, and I worked with the Green Restaurant Association up there and did some energy saving and sustainability projects, and interested to see how I can help down here in Houston.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Vicky Hernandez.
Charlie Souza.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah,
go
Charlie
ahead.
Souza with Surge Engineering. We have been doing industrial automation with emphasis in safety systems and security systems, with the safety being protecting human life and the environment, and the security part on the cybersecurity, covering the cybersecurity aspect of it. We do oil and gas refineries, chemical plants, and now looking into bringing that expertise into the commercial, and even considering the smart city plan.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. I see some more. Vicky Hernandez.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Vicky Hernandez. I'm with Powering Coastal Texas. I work alongside Kelly Waters. We work with electrical contractors in the Houston area. Two of our companies are on this call, Melton Electric and Midwest Electric, and we're looking on different ways on how our electrical contractors can help out in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else is beyond the presenters? Anybody else that's joining us that'd like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, let me go ahead and introduce myself here. So my name is Sunil Garg. I'm the founder and CEO of a machine learning and AI company. And we are focused on building sustainable living workflows. Primarily, it's all around software, sustainable living workflows, software, all focused, around machine learning and AI.
Terrific. Someone else?
Yeah, I can introduce myself. I'm Noor Salman. As the little logo in my screen, I work for Shell in City Solution. And personally, I'm passionate for all the energy transition because our family business is build sustainable constructions with resilience and safe in mind. So very happy to cooperate with all of you and learn, of course, from all of you.
Thank you, Noor.
I'm Nancy Edwards. I'm with the Houston Climate Movement. I was on this committee the last round, and I've been working on the adoption of city building codes and bringing them up to the 2021 level.
Thank you, Lindsay. Glad to see you again. Do we have, just to finalize, any last participant to introduce themselves?
Hey, everyone.
Two more. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tom Bucci, and like Mr. Dicko, I work with Wood in the consulting division. I lead up the building and facilities practice globally, and glad to join this group and participate any way I can.
Terrific. One more?
Yeah, hi, my name is Alberto, and I'm in construction with Lionel Basel, currently doing progress measurement, what we call project controls.
Thank you, Alberto. Appreciate you being on the call. Well, with that, looking at our time, we're going to move to our next agenda item. Thank you for getting this up on the screen. This is what we sent you earlier. Tomas and Marcel, if you'll introduce yourselves as leaders in the larger climate action plan. I'm not sure which one will go first, but I know you perhaps want to share your screen too, but we want to give you the background of where we've been and what the current proposition is before we get into kind of the discussion of the residential and commercial efforts that many of you all have already kind of intimated you have an interest in. So Tomas, Moshal?
Moshal, should I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So Thomas Pommier with the Office of Sustainability at the City of Houston, working under the Chief Sustainability Officer, on all things related to the Climate Action Plan and its implementation. Should I go ahead, Riz, and present, and then Michelle will introduce herself after? Okay. Let me pull presentation up.
And by the way, this is a synopsis of what we send out in various forms as invitation. And again, it's also online. But again, most current update as of today. Tomas, go for it. Thank you.
Right. I'm going to try to be quick. You all can see it, right? Okay. So first, a little bit of background, very brief. I'm not going to go too far back. The Climate Action Plan is the overall strategy for the city of Houston, not just as an organization, but as a community, to move towards carbon neutrality by 2050. So the plan outlines the goals, strategies, and actions that we as the city and the community, you guys, plan to take in order to reduce our emissions and reach the goals of the Paris Agreement. Important to say, it's a living document. It's meant to be updated every 5 years, and we do greenhouse gas emissions on a yearly basis. Next. So carbon neutral by 2050, baseline measurements showed us that the great majority of our emissions come from energy. That includes the energy we consume in our buildings, and then transportation, which is a bit of a, that makes Houston a little bit different from other cities in the United States that don't have quite such a large portion of their emissions coming from transportation. And then waste is a much smaller portion, but it's an important contributor as well, and important to take into account because there are other aspects than emissions related to waste, right? The plan is divided into 4 sections: transportation, energy transition, building optimization, which is our topic today, material management, and then of course, and as Michelle is going to talk more about that after me, equity needs to be at the core of all of these things. And as we think about solutions, we need to make sure that they are implemented in an equitable way, and that the folks that are most impacted by climate change and the adverse impact are thought of first when we implement these solutions. Here is a graph that shows the challenge you're all familiar with, I think. So our baseline inventory in 2014 showed emissions at 34 million tons of CO2 equivalent per year. And so you've got on the graph sort of the projections if we do nothing, and the increasing levels of emissions by sector. Here is the graph that shows the potential impact of our climate action plan if we implement all of the actions in the plan. You know, you've got the baseline here, which is business as usual. We don't do anything. Emissions continue to grow. And here's the potential reduction impact on the different areas. So you can see the most we can do is on transportation and changing the sources of energy we use. Building optimization is a part of that, right? And then significant, something we think of less, but that has a significant potential for reduction is the offsets. And those are things like planting trees and having more green spaces that function as carbon sinks. Let's go a little bit more into the goals and strategies. I'm only going to focus today on the building optimization side. 3 goals a number of strategies, and then I'll go a little bit more into the implementation and some of the actions outlined in the plan that we think should be prioritized in the near future. The first goal is to reduce building energy use and maximize savings. Strategies are to update the energy code first and increase compliance with the code. Develop programs that improve energy efficiency, reduce water and wastewater consumption by 10% through optimization of facility operations and water conservation. That's a goal for Houston Water. The division of our Public Works department that handles water operations. Number 2 is to expand investment in energy efficiency by promoting clean energy finance programs, expanding participation in utility energy incentives. And the third goal is to optimize building operations through investing in skilled local jobs. And what that means is investing in training programs for the folks that operate, manage, and maintain our buildings throughout the city, because it is one thing to look at the technological solutions to optimize buildings, but if there aren't trained people to optimize the use of that technology, then you don't maximize the potential of these technologies to reduce energy and increase water conservation, but you also don't maximize your investment in these technologies, right? Here's just a slide that quickly recaps the different time frames. The CAP was, as you know, launched last year, so the immediate timelines are this year, near term 2025, medium 2030, and the last targets are for 2050. And that those can be seen for those of you that have looked into the Climate Action Plan. At the very end, you've got the full implementation summary that lists all of the actions and timeline for each of the actions. And different types of actions that we can take at the city level, policies and changes in our operations internally, changes in the codes and ordinances, the building of partnerships with the private sector. An example on the electrification of transport is Evolve Houston, for example, incentives and community-led initiatives, which is what we're here to discuss and what we're, live in action. You guys are the community. This working group is community-led. And then, something that's taken a lot of our time this year, state and federal lobbying, or at least working with the other levels of government. The state legislature was in session this year. We spent a lot of time reviewing all of the bills that went through the floor and working with our government affairs department to make the voice of the city heard at the state level on all of these bills. And with the federal government, we've been working more actively through climate mayors, which the mayor of Houston now chairs. And an example of that relates to our conversation today is on the weatherization side. I think it's worth mentioning that as somebody mentioned earlier, there was a lot of focus during the development of the plan on the commercial side, because that's where most of the emissions can be lowered. But with the events of this year and the winter freeze in particular, a lot of attention has shifted to the residential sector and the need for weatherization, in our communities. That has been the case not just in Houston, but throughout Texas and frankly throughout the U.S. And so we've worked through climate mayors and in collaboration with mayors all around the city, the state, the United States, to work with the federal government and point some of the gaps in the existing programs and grant programs for weatherization, where the folks working on implementing those programs were telling us, well, the issue with weatherization and the way these programs are set up is that oftentimes the homes are in such a state of disrepair that they are not eligible for these programs. And so there was a need to make changes to the program so that the homes could be repaired, address deferred maintenance before weatherizing. And so that's been heard by the federal government, and they've made some changes, and now the HUD and the DOE have a joint grant. It's a pilot that is aimed at seeing if the joining of these two programs can help bridge that gap. Implementation, here are some of the suggested priorities. I am longer than I am meant to be, so I'm going to leave this to you. This is recorded, and we can distribute the PowerPoint. But these are some of the priority action, the actions that we think can be prioritized by this working group. You've seen up top weatherization, accelerating the adoption of the energy code, and that means 2021, which we're hoping to implement by 2025. Some of you know that we are currently in the process of adopting the 2015 building code, and these processes just take a lot of time, and that's just the way it works internally, and the way Public Works functions is that they needed to go through the adoption of 2015 before moving on to, I shouldn't say before, because they're really doing both in parallel. They're already working on 2021 while they're in the process of adopting 2015. There are definitely some things we can do on training and education. We've doubled the number of PACE projects in the city of Houston. Somebody mentioned that earlier, which is a good thing, but educating folks on PACE and this type of financing that's available for retrofits and energy efficiencies in your buildings is important, and as many PACE projects as we can have in the city, the better. Again, on education, it's important. I mentioned earlier to train folks to manage our buildings efficiently, but we also need the community to know about the existing programs for these career pathways. We can, there are some folks we work with that are working on resources for homeowners or dwellers in multifamily complexes to educate people on how they can also implement energy efficiency at home. And that's about it. The rest of the stuff is a bit more complex, but there's a lot of course, that Centerpoint is involved in being, the utility for our city. And so a lot of work that should be done in partnership with them as well. And I will leave it at that. The takeaway is we need you guys. We need all the help we can get. And so thank you. And I'll leave maybe we want to have questions first, or do we want to move?
Let's do the quick questions now, respecting, we're trying to keep this to an hour, but as Tomas said, and Yolanda and I are tag teaming to represent you all and work together. In fact, Yolanda will really run the rest of the meeting, but it's, implementation and help from you all. And thank you, Tomas. Maybe there are some questions, and we do want to talk a bit about the equity component. Mashal, are you limited in time? Or are you okay?
I'm good. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go for questions.
Great.
Thank you, Tomas. We see a hand from Sunil. State your question, please.
Sure. Yeah. So, Mike, in fact, I had just a quick question looking at that plan. I didn't see anything about garbage disposal. And I think, to me at least, it seems like a great potential to reduce the pressure on the water recycling plants, as well as reduce the amount that is going into the landfill. So is there a plan to incorporate that into the climate action plan?
So that's a good question. I didn't go into that because there's a different working group that works on the materials management area of the climate action. The quick answer is yes. Our solid waste department at the city is working on that. There's a brand new plan to divert more waste from landfill that you can access on the city website. And there's a whole section on materials management and the circular economy in the climate action plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see George. Do you have a question?
Yeah, you mentioned the center point process for optimization of energy. Is this reduced to users for that kind of company, or is in general?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to need you to.
Yeah, the center, you said center point. Well, the building optimization is working really neat with center point energy. There's a bunch of I don't know which ones belong to that company. If I have on my building or I have something different, I will need to be attached to that process.
So for CenterPoint Energy facilities, anything in the greater Houston area belongs to CenterPoint Energy. It does not matter who your retail provider is. Those are up to you, but CenterPoint is the delivery company for all of greater Houston.
Oh, okay. That was my issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? At this time, so we want to thank you guys for your interest and your questions. Tomas, if you could send me the presentation, I can link it in the chat, and so everyone can have access to that. And our next presenter is going to be Mashal. Mashal is with the Equity Group, and she has been one of the trailblazers in this climate action plan, and we have gained a lot of knowledge from her. So I want to thank you, Mashal, for all of your help and your aid. And so we're going to let her talk about equity, because that's on the forefront of each and every group. Each of the 4 groups will take equity into consideration when rolling out their plans. Mashal?
Thank you, Yolanda and Reeves, for having me today. Like mentioned, my name is Mashal. I'm with Bayou City Waterkeeper, and I also have been co-leading the community engagement, equity, and youth working groups. But I'm here to talk about equity and climate action and kind of in partnership with building optimization groups. I'm really excited that we're having this conversation. So in terms of equity in climate action, I kind of wanted to share, I'll be really quick. So how do we define it, and how does it keep showing up in the work that we're doing? There's 3 different areas. There's the climate adaptation, there's climate mitigation, and then there's climate equity. And each of those 3 can come together, and we can all sort of like find a mutual space to kind of keep pulling and implementing equity when we're rolling out implementation within the climate action plan. So I can share the slides with you so I don't have to read the slides, and I know some of y'all are on the phone, so for those that can't see, I'll try to be as descriptive as possible. But going on to the next slide, when we're really, what we're looking at is initially when the climate action plan was put together, it didn't have explicit language to factor in equity and what inequities exist in Houston. So the reality is that there's certain people, certain agencies, and certain institutions that will continuously get more and more resources, and that'll kind of keep people that don't have those resources not at the forefront of climate change and adaptation. So oftentimes when what we're talking about right now and what we're trying to hope to move forward towards is having equity and justice be at the forefront. So recognizing that vulnerable communities and people that are marginalized and have been marginalized for decades are at the forefront of the climate crisis. So how do we prioritize making sure that they're not facing the impact of climate change, as we see in Houston that they oftentimes do. It's communities of color that get flooded the most and displaced the most, and over again. You know, it doesn't have to be a hurricane that will displace people or flood their homes or take their power out. It could just be a normal rain event. So what we need right now, I've put together these 5 sort of bullet points, and I think we've done a really good job in the past year to acknowledge that climate change is connected to the inequities within the city of Houston and the greater Houston area. But what we can continue to hope to do is to create frameworks and definitions for equity within the climate action plan. So we have a Yaneth, who is the climate equity coordinator with the city of Houston now, which is really exciting. The Office of Sustainability, we've been working really closely with her, hope to continue to do that framework building, and hopefully with you all as well. And then the third part is to create metrics to identify prioritizing equity-based projects within the working groups, and then engaging with communities, and then implementing equity-based climate action. And I think ideally we would move forward on implementation really, you know, because the climate action plan came out last year and people are really wanting to move forward. But I think in order to make sure that things are moving forward in an equitable manner, we kind of need to take a step back and also start defining what equity means and how it continues to show up in our work. And I want to thank Tama for summarizing.
Can I ask a question? This is Tammy Betancourt. Before you move on, for those of us who may not be as familiar with the equity and justice piece of the climate change, can you give like an example of what a project that brought equity and justice through climate change solutions would be, just to give me an understanding of what types of things we're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. That's what I was going to talk about right now, is that if we're looking at the goals within the climate action plan, specifically within this group, within building optimization, right? There are 3 goals that have been identified, right? And within those, there's like expanding, like if we look at goal 2, for example, expand investment in energy efficiency. And it says promote clean energy financing programs. Or B2.2, expand utility energy financing and incentive programs. So I think if we prioritize equity, we probably want to have some metrics, which we're working on right now, and Yaneth is going to help build those, or the city will be building those out in the next couple of months, I would hope, is to see which neighborhoods, which zip codes are the ones that are consistently not being included and the ones that have been left out in terms of energy efficiency or building optimization. I think Tama brought up a good point, is like some of the homes that have been that don't have they basically need to be repaired to the point where before they even qualify for any of these federal programs. So I think really working with city and federal governments to kind of ensure that those communities and those homes get the funding ahead of other zip codes and neighborhoods that will automatically qualify because they have those resources sort of built into those neighborhoods. I hope that that sort of answers the question. And you know, I think that's the goal of us being here together in these spaces, is to kind of try to identify how to take these goals and put the equity focus into these, especially considering like people have already acknowledged that there hasn't been a residential focus as well in the initial framing. So doing more of that type of critical thinking and asking those types of questions. I hope that answers the question. I'm happy to answer them, provide more detail. But I've outlined a few main tasks ahead. So creating some frameworks within the working groups. I think that's happening now, but we need to kind of do a lot more and understand what structures currently exist to address climate action plan implementation, and how do we prioritize vulnerable communities. And then one of the biggest questions I would like for all of us to reflect, you know, as we leave this space is like, who are the missing voices in this space? I've heard a lot of like experts in the room, a lot of industry leaders, which is really incredible because that's going to drive the training and that's going to drive resources coming into communities. But then who are the communities that aren't here? Who are the stakeholders that we're not including in these spaces, and how can we make these spaces more inclusive? Supporting equity within the building optimization group, identifying priority areas within CAP goals, identifying partnering with vulnerable communities or at-risk underinvested communities, and then engaging the city stakeholders. So really, you know, with the IPCC report coming out, the time is now. We really need to move forward, but in an equitable manner. So how do we continue to do that? And I think one of the biggest things is like oftentimes communities need resources, financial and educational and training and all of those types of things. And then once we get to implementation, I think that we also have to shape out what accountability is going to look like. So having transparency in our work and in identifying priority areas, and how are we measuring progress as we continue to roll out implementation and pilot projects. And with that, I'd just like to open the floor to questions, and I want to thank you for your time. I've put my email, but I'm also adding Yanes's email. She's the Climate Equity Coordinator. So you can also be in consistent communication with the city if anything comes up. So thank you so much. And I see some hands raised, but if you all want to just unmute and ask questions, feel free, please.
Do we have any questions? I see a few hands, but I don't know if that's from the last set of questions or if that's from this set of questions, so I apologize. If you have a question, feel free to speak now. We will share both sets of presentations, the presentation given by Tomas as well as the presentation given by Mashal, and so we thank both of them very much. And so in respect of everyone's time, we know that the time is 9 for our meeting to be up. We appreciate you actually joining us. The follow-up to this meeting will be you will get a survey. The survey will ask several very important questions, first of which being, when would you like to see these meetings take place? Is this a good time frame? Is there one that we can do earlier? How often do you think this group should meet? Once a month, bi-weekly? How often do you think that we should meet? And most importantly is that now in the wake of Winter Storm Uri, we have created both a residential portion for this group as well as a commercial portion. Which group would you like to spend your resources at? So we're going to create 2 forms, 2 subgroups within building optimization. One will be for residential, one will be for commercial. And so you have the option of working in one or the other, but please know that whichever one you choose, you can also have some influence in the other one if you so desire. And so look for the presentations that were given tonight, as well as the survey, which will ask for your opinion on our next steps and how we move forward. Not only how we move forward, but when and how often we will move forward. And please feel free to offer any suggestions to make our future meetings a greater success. But as for that, if Reeves or Tomas or Michelle have any parting remarks, we thank you for your time and your dedication to this effort. And again, we could not do this without you. It is a community effort, and without you, the community, this effort would be for naught.
The only quick thing I'd add is indeed this is a fairly fast time frame. This is not multiple years. As you see on the screen, we're really looking at probably, a 6-month period, perhaps, to make some proposals. It could go a bit longer, but the goal is not to meet, every 6 months, but really try to get a more regular pace based on the breakdown of the residential versus commercial group. We also would hope that maybe within each of those groups, to support Tomas, Yolanda, and myself, there'd be a kind of a pair of co-leaders that would help coordinate, communicate, and work as necessary with the city. So again, we're first interested with a survey that we'll be sending out, as Yolanda's mentioned, to see your disposition and time, meeting times, et cetera. So thank you, Yolanda.
I see there are a couple of questions, and we have a few minutes if we can get to them. Lee Wong says, has there been any discussion on measuring energy use across all commercial buildings in the city?
That's a good question. I'm going to take that one. It is in the climate action. We are starting with cleaning our own house, if you will, and leading by example. So we are currently working on an internal policy for benchmarking and disclosure for the city of Houston as an organization. The next step would be to implement that at the community level.
And the second question, is there a building optimization tax abatement program similar to the Green Stormwater Infrastructure tax abatement program announced in December 2020?
Sorry, I missed that. The tax abatement program for what?
Similar to the Green Stormwater Infrastructure tax abatement?
Yes, similar to the GIS, but for energy efficiency. Is that the question?
For building optimization.
That's correct. Okay.
Yeah, this is.
No, to my knowledge, there isn't one currently. Some of that work is actually handled by by other offices within the city of Houston. So I could double check that, but to my knowledge, there isn't. However, I mentioned earlier PACE, which is which basically allows you to do these retrofits, these improvements to your building with loans that allow you to basically pay back your investment through the savings that you're making on your energy bill, on your utility bills.
Great. If there are no further questions or comments from the group, please watch your email for an email that will come from either Reeves or myself that will contain both presentations that were given tonight as well as the survey. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.